5-4 win here in Chicago. Philip Umber faces Kosuke Fukudome. And Fukudome, a guy that lined one off of Umber not too long ago. Here's your Taco Bell starting lineup. Brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. After Fukudome, the rookie Jason Kipnis, Cabrera, and Jim Thome batting cleanup. Thome, of course, a former White Sox, but it all got going with these Cleveland Indians a long time ago. Here's the numbers on Philip Umber. We get a chance to scout out Philip Umber and hear from Eric Karros at the same time, our Sprint pitcher profile.
Well, Philip Umber, he's looking for his first win at home since June 12th against Oakland. He's been on the DL for a period of time. This is his second start back. He's got to be aggressive. This Cleveland team strikes out a lot, so he's got to be around the zone.
There you go. Fukudome down on strikes, and Kipnis comes up next as we check the defense for you on this 74-degree afternoon here on the south side. Diaz made an amazing catch last night. There's the infield, and catching today, yeah, it is A.J. Pierzynski. Catching Philip Umber, who last time out threw 7 shutout innings. And that made him only the second best starter the White Sox used that day. Because after Umber went 7 shutout innings in Game 1 against Minnesota, in Game 2, Zach Stewart came out, gave Chicago 7 perfect innings. 21 up, 21 down. Kipnis rockets one into center field, base hit.
Well, Kipnis is one of those young guys that's going to get an audition here this last month of the season. So far since he's been up, he's displayed a lot of power, slugging it almost a 600 clip. You see this pitch up, out, over the plate. Keeps his head right on it. Doesn't necessarily square it up, but hits enough of it to drive it into center field.
It's a thrill for Kipnis. He's from right here in Chicago, Glenbrook North High School. A big pass list for him here today. Now Cabrera lofting one to center. Jim Thome about to bat, and Jim Thome was excited to be getting back into what he thought was going to be a pennant race. Hasn't worked out that way, but boy, nice ovation here from these fans in Chicago.
Yeah, I don't think there's a place that he has played where he's not well received. I mean, one of the consummate professionals, well liked by fans and by his peers. Just about as good a guy as there is in the game.
The Thome shift is in play here. They leave the third baseman Morel as the only guy between third base and second base. Everybody knows Thome loves to hit the ball to that right side. Wasn't always that way. When he first came up with the Indians, believe it or not, his power was to the opposite field. Lifting it to the opposite field. That ball jumps to the track and near the wall. Run down by Rios. Thome and the Indians sent packing. We'll introduce you to the White Sox lineup next. White Sox have played 500 ball. Tigers have played 800 ball. They just peeled away.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a problem. They just ran away with it. It wasn't so much the White Sox and Indians. It was Detroit.
White Sox lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. Juan Pierre recently minted his 2000th career big league hit. Ramirez and Konerko, Przinsky and Rios. Adam Dunn, boy, miserable, doesn't even begin to describe it, how it's gone for him this year. Diaza, Morel, and Beckham against Fausto Carmona. And boy, they needed a big start from him last time out. They didn't get it.
Now going up against Detroit, didn't even get out of the first inning. It was just rough.
The sprint pitcher profile for Fausto Carmona.
Sink the Sox. He's got to rely on that sinker. He tries to get cute with the slider, and that's just a flat pitch. He's got a power sinker. He's got to use it. Stay away from the man of the White Sox, Paul Konerko. He's had a lot of success against Fausto Carmona.
Would you believe 44 runs batted in is fourth on this Chicago White Sox team for Juan Pierre?
I would believe that because I read that as well the other day, and it's not a good sign. It's nice for Juan Pierre, but it's not a good sign for the White Sox.
How much money could you have won betting your buddy that this year Juan Pierre would have more RBI than Adam Dunn? That's a rhetorical question.
Number one, I don't bet, and number two, I don't have a lot of buddies there, Josh.
Here's your umpire alignment today. Ed Rapiano's your crew chief. Ed Hickox has the plate. And Ed Hickox, a part-time detective in Daytona Beach, Florida. Just in case you ever get in trouble down there and you need some help. We'll talk more as we go along today about the travails of Adam Dunn and to a lesser extent Alex Rios and some of these other Chicago underachievers this year. At EK, it's funny, the Indians have almost the exact same record as the White Sox, but we're talking about the White Sox underachieving to get here and the Indians overachieving to be at exactly the same place.
Well, not a lot of expectations for the Cleveland Indians, at least outside of the organization, and really they were beset by injury after injury, and for them to be in the race this long is really a testament to Manny Acta and what he's been able to do with his ball club. The White Sox, on the other hand, they just didn't get a lot of production. You see some of those starts, Fausto Carmona, great out of the gate. And Manny Acta telling us prior to the game, he just felt like Carmona got into a stretch where he started to try to trick hitters, throw that slider up there instead of just relying on that power sinker.
Pierre puts it in play. One down brings up Alexi Ramirez. Carmona's facing the Sox for a fourth time this year, and so far it has been cover your eyes ugly. 19 runs allowed in 16 innings. But boy, it wasn't too long ago, that 2007 dream season for him. It was going very well for him. It's funny to say this now, Eric, but it's true. When the Indians were one game away from going to the World Series in 07. Of Cliff Lee and Fausto Carmona, it was Fausto Carmona who was the ace of that pitching staff.
I remember it was almost, he was in a stretch where he could tell the hitter, hey, I'm throwing that sinker, and it wouldn't matter. When you had that much movement, it was that heavy a ball.
Ripped into left field, base hit. Wide turn for Ramirez. He's coming back and brings up Paul Konerko, who's just 2 RBI away from 100.
Well, here's that sinker, and it doesn't sink. It stays on the same plane. Ideally, that thing should be diving down and into the right-handed hitters. But when it stays flat, it's a very hittable pitch.
That's what happened in that Tigers game last time out. He got the first 2 outs of that game. Was ahead of Delman Young 0-2, but walked him. And then you're right. Next thing you know, everything's up, and he was just getting clocked. Well, the glue of this White Sox team for years, Paul Konerko, playing through injuries at the expense of his stats. And the stats are still very good. As you've said, when Carmona's on, that sinker will get a lot of ground balls. Konerko, who admits he doesn't run very well, he's always a candidate to hit into a double play.
The one thing about Paul Konerko, though, he's a smart hitter. What I mean by that is he doesn't have the speed, but with guys on, he'll look for something up in the zone until he gets 2 strikes. Try and stay out of that ground ball double play. You see the defense, you see how they're even playing back. I mean, normally shortstop and second baseman might be playing a little closer, but because of the runner at the plate, they can afford to play a little further back, give themselves a bit more of a chance.
That's why I think it's remarkable that Konerko is hitting .312. He doesn't have leg hits like an Ichiro or somebody like that. That's a legit .312 batting average.
No question. And the thing about Paul Konerko, he hits for the power, he drives in the runs, but he is as smart a hitter as there is in the game. He makes adjustments. He knows what he's capable of doing, what he's not capable of doing.
In the air, a little bloop. Will drop down in front of the left fielder, and Shelley Duncan will guide it back in.
You see Shelley Duncan, he acts like, okay, I got it. He puts the glove up a little bit just to keep Ramirez at first. And you see where he makes contact here. That's closer towards the label. He's got the head down, but that's that power sinker that continues to run in against the right-handed hitter. Didn't get it down like he probably would have liked, but it did run in on Paul Konerko's hands.
Remember, all kinds of first inning trouble last time out for Fausto Carmona. Now he's got to deal with A.J. Przinsky. .95 and it moves. So you can tell that indeed if he's locating and doing what he wants to do, the talent is there for Carmona.
Well, he's got the weapons. It's whether or not you can harness those weapons. That's great that you've got movement. It's great that you throw 95, but if you can't put it in the spot you want to put it, or you can't harness that movement, what I mean by that, get it to dart down instead of laying flat on the plane. Big league hitters are going to hit that.
You saw 8 hits allowed. 5 of those were by lefties in that game. Lefties went 5 for 6 against him. You saw Tim Belcher, the pitching coach. Some people forget Tim Belcher was a Chicago White Sox briefly. The year they went to the playoffs for Gene Lamont in 1993.
Also very instrumental in that '88 Dodger ball club that won the World Series against the Oakland A's.
It goes to 3-0. And the somewhat resurgent Alex Rios on deck. We might see a Tim Belcher appearance on the mound pretty soon.
Well, I think in this situation, what you've got to do is not just lay one down the middle to Przinsky. I mean, it's almost better that you try to make a pitcher's pitch. If you're walking, you've got the bases loaded, you're still 1 pitch away. You're going against a right-hander in Rios. You mentioned, Josh, left-handers are hitting at almost a 300 clip against Carmona this year.
He's taking, and Rios will have his shot. .14 of the last 18 batters that Carmona has faced going back to that game against Detroit have reached base.
And he's very aware of that. I can tell you that right now. He's thinking, God, here we go again.
His body language almost suggests that too, to be honest, DK. Just kind of like, you're right, like, man, oh man. Pours in a strike here to Rios.
Well, you take a look at the release point there. It's way on the side. Now, That's okay if you can control it, because you're going to get a lot more movement on the ball when you're not over the top. But the problem is it also allows for a lot more room for error.
After walking Przinsky on 4 pitches, he's going to hop ahead of Rios 0-2. Adam Dunn on deck.
But see, now this is where Manny Acted talked about Carmona just trusting that power sinker. Don't try to get cute. You're ahead in the count. Don't try to trick somebody with a slider. Go right after him with that power sinker.
The one grand slam that was allowed by Carmona, some will remember, was in the postseason. J.D. Drew hit it. Regular season, he's got the Jim Palmer working. Jim Palmer, a Hall of Fame career, never gave up a grand slam in the big leagues. One in the minors, it's reported. That was a Johnny Bench. Carmona strikes out Rios. And it's up to Adam Dunn, who's getting booed before he even leaves the on-deck circle.
Well, and you see, this is that power sinker. He just runs and darts down against right-handed hitters. When Carmona is right, like I said earlier, he can basically tell the hitter, hey, guys, here comes the power sinker. Good luck. It's that good a pitch.
Boy, anything for Adam Dunn to salvage the wreckage of this season here. Ozzie Guillen telling us before the game there's not a day that goes by that he doesn't have to answer a question about Adam Dunn. And all year long, the positive people have said, hey, Adam Dunn can't be this bad forever, but he has been this series, just never gotten it going.
Well, it's a combination of everything. I mean, people want to say maybe it's the mechanics, maybe it's the coming over to a new league, maybe it's the big free agent contract. You see Greg Walker, the hitting coach of the Chicago White Sox, and he's done everything in his power. At the end of the day, the only thing that will get Adam Dunn going is for him to have some success in games. You can be told all the things to do and watch all the video, and the bottom line, though, you have to have success on the field to get your mind right.
He's going to have to fight back from down 0-2. He's hitting .076 this year with 2 strikes on him.
Yeah, and you look at this at-bat right now. Takes the first pitch. It's right down the middle. He's kicking himself a bit. That is a check swing. And you can just tell right now mentally he's indecisive. And you can't be like that up at the plate. The last thing you want to do up at the plate, it sounds ridiculous, but you don't want to think. Just get up there, react. You do your thinking before you get to the box, not once you're in it.
We'll talk more today about that exact thing. Ozzie Guillen had some really interesting things to say about that whole concept. And by the way, we'll be talking with Omar Vizquel in the next inning as well. Got a piece.
Here we go. There's that sinker, and at least it's located in the right spot. It's down.
Boy, it was a 9-pitch top of the first inning for Umber. This is number 26 about to be thrown here from Carmona. Fausto, definitely not fast-o. Now, he's very deliberate. Dunn brings it to 2-2. And 2 singles and a walk in the inning.
See, and I think why Carmona has trouble with left-handed hitters, he doesn't have that pitch that can get that left-handed hitter out. A lot of right-handers use that slider, that changeup, you know, but again, he's a power sinker, which runs away from left-handed hitters, allows them to get extended on the ball.
Dunn has now struck out 159 times. His batting average is 160. No score, end of 1. And by One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of Major League Baseball. White Sox threatened, but they did not score in the bottom of the first. And here in the top of the second inning, a longtime Cleveland Indian and current Chicago White Sox will be joining us, Omar Vizquel, who says he is going to be playing baseball again next year. Correct? Right?
Hopefully.
Somebody's got to actually offer you that chance, though, right?
Exactly.
11-time Gold Glover, and some memories, obviously, for you, Omar, for to share with the people of Cleveland watching you today. I know that the Indians will always be a part of who you are.
Oh yeah, I got my best years in the Indians uniform. Those 2 World Series that we have in '97 and '95, and all the great memories of the players that I played with: Eddie Murray, and Dave Winfield, Dennis Martinez, Otto Hercheiser, Kenny Lofton, Albert Bell. I mean, there were so many legends of the game that, hard to forget.
Is there any one year in your Hall of Fame career that stands out, whether it was with the Indians or the Mariners or even the Giants or anywhere?
Well, I think the year in '95 when we won 116 games was, pretty memorable. We came to play in a new ballpark in Cleveland, and people just came like crazy to the games, and we sold out every game in the season. And then after that, it just keep going and it just keep carrying every year. And it was just unbelievable how big the support of the fans was in those years.
Sizemore taking a called third strike to bring up Shelley Duncan. Well, Omar, I remember reading in your autobiography 10 years ago, you wrote this. You wrote, "I don't think a shortstop can play much past the age of 37. And I saw you at the age of 43 playing shortstop, 44 now. How are you staying in such great shape?
Well, it's funny because after that, I went to the Giants and I ended up winning 2 more Gold Glove at the age of 38 and 39. And, I don't know. I guess it's inside of me. I'm the type of guy that always like to be active, running, doing exercises. I've been in some marathon. I went into some speed work and run races, do all kind of exercises. Every year my routine changed, whether it's yoga or straight lifting weights or plyometrics exercise. Every time it changed, and I think it gave me a different perspective in how the body have to move in different ways. And at this point, I feel pretty good about myself.
The ball fouled back towards the catcher, and Przinsky's going to grab it. Art has always been a passion, I know, and I wanted everybody to see the T-shirt that's available, by the way, for White Sox charities right now. If you go to whitesox.com, and tell us about what we're looking at.
Well, art always has been my passion, and you know, when I'm not playing baseball and I have some time in my house, I like to experiment on different techniques of art. And I was doing these watercolor things. The people from the White Sox wanted to see what I was doing, and they fell in love with this piece. They decided to put it out on a shirt and share it with the fans. So if you're looking at the shirt right now on TV, I don't have the screen in front of me, but you can see that it's like an abstract piece that I came up with, and you know, it's just fun. I hope people like it and buy it, because it goes to the charity of the White Sox, and then we can help out some kids buying some baseballs and uniforms and stuff. And you know, I'm happy to collaborate with this program.
Omar, thanks for everything. I think a lot of people are hoping you are still playing ball next year too, and good luck with the art as well.
Thank you very much. All right.
Quick inning for Philip Umber again. We'll leave you with some of the great glove work of Omar Vizquel. Refreshing splash of 100% natural lime flavor. Philip Umber has breezed through a couple of innings today. Fausto Carmona struggled to get through the bottom of the first, but he did get through it. Now facing the bottom third of the Chicago order, starting with Alejandro De Aza. In baseball, there's a phrase you hear every so often. He made a circus catch. And EK last night, De Aza performed a full-on Barnum and Bailey on Kosuke Fukudome. That was something.
Yeah, it really was. Back to the hitter. The route was a bit circuitous. I mean, I don't think I've seen anything like it. Take a look at it right here.
Got it.
Mixed in a little juggling, too. I mean, he's got his back to the hitter, and then he starts to move to his right. It goes glove to the bare hand.
fields that one towards the alley in left center. And Diaza on his way to second base. Easily in there with a double. Yeah, that juggling catch, almost reminiscent of the Dwayne Wise catch to save the Mark Burley perfect game not too long ago.
Well, you see Diaz, he gets that sinker that runs away from the left-handed hitter. Instead of trying to pull it, he does what he should do. He shoots it to that left center field gap, usually into second base.
Brent Morel only 8 career home runs, but one of them is off Fausto Carmona. And 2 of the others hit in the same game a couple of nights ago. Bunting. And Carmona makes the play. Now you're looking at a runner at third for Gordon Beckham. Do you have a play at third base here, EK?
Well, whether he did or he didn't, he did the smart thing. I mean, Carmona right there, if he comes up and shoots and throw, first of all, the third baseman is not on the bag. But this early in the game, with as many struggles as he's had in the first inning, he just needs to get out. You don't want to try to get the out at third, then not get it. Now you've got first and third, nobody out. Early in the game, take the outs.
Corner men are in a little bit, but they're back up the middle as Beckham waves and misses. In an 0-2 hole, Beckham was compared very favorably, Eric, to the Rangers' Michael Young when he first broke in. But whereas Young improved every year his first few seasons, Beckham's batting average has gone down every year.
Well, the way he's been built up, the expectations of the organization, the fans, made it difficult for him to live up to those feelings. But Beckham right now, for instance, right here, all he's trying to do is make contact. You don't have to go up there trying to kill the ball, even trying to get a base hit. But when you go up there 0-0 with a guy on third, 1 out, just try to shoot the ball to the right side. Wait for it to travel deep. And this is a guy, a second baseman, 100 strikeouts.
That will get the run home. Down in the count. He blasted up against the wall. Chicago on top 1-0. Well, it goes double, sack, bunt, double at the bottom of the order here.
Well, you watch right now, he's looking and saying, I want the fastball, I want that sinker running in. And it's the sinker, but it's right down the middle of the plate. You can see Carmona right after he throws it, he just drops his head. And again, you can have the greatest stuff in the world, but if you can't hit spots, big league hitters will wear you out.
Lawn Care, who grounded out in the first inning. Remember, the White Sox had a chance for a big inning in the first and got nothing. The bases loaded, 1 out. Mentioned earlier, Pierre got that 2000th big league hit. And he got it just the way he wanted to. Hard to hit ball through the shortstop hole. And both Pierre and Paul Konerko have achieved a 2000th career hit within the last couple of weeks. Paul Konerko, a huge admirer of Pierre's work ethic, Eric, says, I've never been around a guy who prepares better to do his job day by day. Unless he looks in a mirror, I guess. Because Paul's pretty good at that, too. From right field, Fukudome will guide it back in. Well, and Juan Pierre talked about reaching 2,000 career hits. And he is very proud of being an everyday player.
Well, no question that he feels like he needs to be out there every day, that he should be out there every day. Doesn't matter if the righty's throwing or the lefty's throwing. As he mentions here, you know, his contract says 162 games. And throughout his career, always been a wonderful teammate, guy that approaches each and every day the same way.
Ramirez had a base hit in the first inning. He's going to fall behind 0-2. It seems like Carmona's been either 3-0 or 0-2 on everybody. Not a lot of middle ground.
Well, and the thing about it is when he gets 0-2, he's been unable to really put the guys away. It's 0-2, then a few more pitches. Again, if anything, the way the counts have gone, it indicates he does not have control. 0-2, this pitch has got to be on an edge, on a corner. He's unable to do that against Beckham. I mean, that's outside, and I understand he wants it on the corner, but that's not even something that a hitter will offer at.
You don't even think about that one.
You're just looking at it going, really? Really?
29 of 41 pitches from the stretch for Carmona. That one had some bite on it, a little purpose.
Well, again, that's the type of pitch that you want to throw 0-2 or 1-2. That's something that, as a hitter, you're thinking, that might go over the plate. It drops out. You've got to protect. And if you do hit that pitch, probably not going to hit it all that well. But those are the type of pitches Carmona has to throw. 1-2, 0-2. Can't be throwing things that get the heart of the plate.
Ramirez might have helped him out right there, kind of extending to slap it in the air to right and close the frame. We'll return to Chicago after a word from your local Fox station. Chevrolet. A 1-0 lead for the White Sox. Josh Lewin and Eric Karros with you today as the Indians prepare to bat in the top of the 3rd inning. Matt Laporta just back up from AAA. And they really want Matt Laporta to be a part of what they're building here. He was a big name that the Indians got from Milwaukee in the CC Sabathia trade the summer of '08. And as Manny Actor was saying before the game, we're so heavily tilted towards the left. We have so many left-hand swingers. We need some right-handed power. We want that from Matt Laporta.
Well, you see a high draft pick out of the University of Florida. He's basically had to learn at the big league level. He jetted through the minor league system. He just has not made the consistent adjustments up here.
Well, and you know, it's funny when you look at the White Sox. I think they've got a similar player in Gordon Beckham, who really was never given a chance to fail at any level. When you fail in the minors, nobody really notices, nobody cares. You fail up here, that's tough.
Yeah, it really is. I think though, with the White Sox and Gordon Beckham, there was just a lot of hype when he came up to this level, and he started off well, had a nice first season offensively, and he's been a good player, and no question that, you know, he is a good player. Is he going to ever evolve into that all-star second base, you know, Robinson Cano type? I don't know. But again, very tough to play at this level.
Something about the line drives up the middle. That one looked like it just glanced either barely off of Umber or right by him, but he has been a target his last 3 starts.
This pitch gets the middle of the plate, shoots it right back up the middle.
Well, and the guy coming to the plate right now actually got him right in the middle of the forehead. Very scary. About a month ago, Kosuke Fukudome. I mean, this looked awful. And fortunately for everybody involved, especially Umber, he was okay.
Yeah, you hate to see anything like that, you know, whether you're watching it on TV or out on the field. When I was with the Dodgers, Kaz Ishihi, pitcher, left-handed. Brian Hunter of the Houston Astros hit a ball, line drive off his forehead. It caromed and landed behind the catcher. They had to remove Ishihi and inserted a metal plate in his head.
Fukudome turns on that. It is foul. You can catch all the action of the 2011 MLB postseason on Fox and TBS, by the way. It all begins Friday, September 30th with the Division Series on TBS. One ball, 2 strikes to Fukudome. So Umber last time out, even though he did have that brief scare on a ball back up the middle, nothing like the Fukudome one back in August, but he looked the way he did back in April and May when everyone was saying he was the steal of the offseason. Umber plucked off the waiver wire from the Oakland A's. And even though he's only won 9 times this year, Eric, he's got an ERA of 3.4.
Oh, he's pitched well, a lot better than a lot of people expected. Filled that 4th and 5th spot very well.
Fukudome has rallied in the count to bring it full here, 3-2. And you touched on this off the top of the broadcast today. For some reason, Umber hasn't won at home in about 3 months. He started the year with an ERA of around 2 in his first 5 starts here and was winning. Last 5 starts here, 0-5. Or 0-4 actually, and a 6.35. Morrison goes. We'll do it again.
Well, you watch, it's not a great jump, but what he does do is he makes sure that Umber's going home. This is basically one of those things, stay out of the double play. Fukudome makes contact.
Runner goes again. No contact this time. Przinsky doesn't throw him out very often, but he does this time. Had the catcher running. They strike him out, throw him out, double play. It stays 1-0 Chicago. Here, let's have a DirecTV game break and take you to the Cubs and the Mets. And Jose Reyes will get it done. Been a disappointing season for both these teams, really. Cubs battle back, take a 5-4 lead, and end up winning it by that score. Get every MLB game and the most in HD. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Paul Konerko is going to end up with another 30-homer, 100 RBI season. He takes a strike here from Carmona. Well, for the last 5 or 6 weeks, Eric, Konerko playing through considerable knee pain. And still in that time, his on-base percentage has been around .480. Imagine if he had a good knee.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, he's doing that on sheer talent, and what I mean by that, he's not doing it with speed. He's getting down to first base because he can flat out hit.
If Carmona can really harness that sinker as this game progresses, the White Sox might be kicking themselves if they didn't belt him when they could in that first inning.
Well, that's the thing about a guy like Carmona, though, is you can have him on the ropes, but he's still got good enough stuff that he can get anybody in your lineup out. In that first inning, he was fortunate. He was facing Rios and Dunn, who obviously have struggled this year.
Boy, Carmona carves him up this time. First time through the order, it was 4 hits and a walk against Carmona. So far, so good second time through.
Well, and this time he goes with the changeup. The good thing about this pitch, again, it's out of the zone. It's low. It's in a great location. Gets Konerko to offer at it.
Getting you in the mood for football here with a time of possession stat.
Yeah, you don't want time of possession though here.
That should help his time of possession. A one-pitch flyout. You had to know that we would be working in some football promo action today. And yes, tomorrow, week 1 of Fox NFL Sunday kicks off. Great doubleheader action. Falcons in town to battle the Bears right here. And it's the second half of that doubleheader. A lot of you will see the Giants and the Redskins. You got the Vikings and the Chargers. Vikings just signed Adrian Peterson for how many millions?
$100 million.
Yes, when Dr. Evil is doing the report, you know you've hit it pretty well. Vikings and Chargers or Panthers Cardinals tomorrow. Coverage begins with the Fox NFL Sunday pregame show at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific.
Can't wait to watch that. Get the guys back. Terry and Howie. The whole crew.
Busted bat pop-up. Boy, and you know what, Carmona, that's the kind of inning that flashes you back to when all was going right for him. 1-0 White Sox. Get it faster with 4G. Rethink possible. And by Burger King, who reminds you to have it your way. In Chicago, on what's turned into a very nice day for baseball, the original forecast was for rain. None of that today. A 1-0 lead. The White Sox got their run in the bottom of the second, and here come the Indians with the native Chicagoan, Jason Kipnis, leading off. On the ground, second base, here's Beckham. This, of course, was supposed to be a rebuilding year for Cleveland, but when the Indians got out 30-15, it was tough to keep expectations in check. And Eric, maybe some of the Indians' fade is the simple fact that they were not supposed to start the year 30-15, but boy, in all fairness, they have been clobbered by injuries.
Well, I think the real issue is the depth. They just don't have the depth as some of the other large market ball clubs have. And you mentioned they've been beset by injuries. Their whole outfield down. Some of the infielders, DH Travis Hafner. And an organization like Cleveland, they can't withstand something like that and expect to compete, especially with a team like Detroit. I think payroll is probably about $50 or $60 million more.
Shin-Soo Choo has missed half the season. They were hoping Sizemore and Hafner could stay healthy. But since the All-Star break, those two have combined to play 36 games.
And those are guys that, especially when you're talking about Choo or Sizemore, Hafner, those are impact guys. You know, those aren't the guys that are hitting 7th or 8th in the lineup. Wow, right off the shoulder. That's when you need that little shoulder pad. See, he's got it on the right arm.
It's not on the left.
For the throwing, not on the left.
Got him. Przinski setting up shop on the outside corner. That's exactly where the pitch was. 2 down and Thome coming up. Jim Thome's first home run was a titanic shot, and we want to show you this. This was at an empty Yankee Stadium, late October '91. Off Steve Farr. He hit it far. And look at the number. He's wearing number 6. Lou Marson's got that number now, and nobody remembers Jim Thome wearing 6.
Well, and you mentioned Jim Thome when he first came up. Power was the other way to left center. Played against him in the minor leagues. And he was in Colorado Springs. Member of the Indians, managed by the manager now, the Philadelphia Phillies, Charlie Manuel.
And the story goes, EK, that the Indians, some in their camp, they were ready to kind of give up on Thome. Charlie Manuel interceded and said, I promise this guy's going to hit 40 homers and drive in 100 someday. Let me take him to AAA. We'll get him going. And sure enough, Manuel helped him reconstruct the swing to make use of his power to right. And you saw where the first career home run landed. It was very much to right field and very well hit. That one's in a center. It's a base hit.
Well, a staple of Jim Thome's swings been his ability to let the ball travel. He hits it deep in the zone here. Very compact swing. You see that back elbow at tuck stays close to the body, which allows him to generate tremendous power.
Thome's come up here to Chicago as a kid to watch baseball. More of a Wrigley Field guy than an old Comiskey guy. Sizemore takes inside. Thome's hero growing up, he says, was Dave Kingman, of all people. And that's why they'd go to the Cubs games. They wanted to see Dave Kingman. Hard hit, but on one hop. Humber and the White Sox out of the inning. Of high expectations, but a very low batting average for Dunn. Obviously, Alex Rios has struggled. Jake Peavy hasn't done what Sox fans were hoping. But nobody's hearing more about his failure than this guy, Adam Dunn.
This season can't end too soon for Adam. And this is a guy who just puts up monster power numbers year after year after year. Again, there are a number of theories as to why he's had struggles this year. But it's all irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean,
basically need to start over and get this season over and clear your head, get away from the game, come back and be ready to go next year. And you can guarantee that next year, the first day of spring training, the questions are going to start. What did you do this offseason so you don't go through what you've gone or what you went through in your first year with the Sox?
You wouldn't wish what he's gone through on anybody. Good dude, just having a miserable time of it. And in fact, if he happens to strike out again in this game before he gets a hit, he will have fewer points on his batting average than he has number of strikeouts.
I don't care what anybody says. This sport, baseball, it's the most taxing mentally of any sport. You see, he just doesn't look comfortable up at the plate, doesn't look smooth. And I say it's taxing because it's a game built on failure. To be successful, you fail.
And that's kind of the old saw that if you fail only 70% of the time at the plate, you're a 300 hitter and you're an all-star.
Right, and you have to be mentally, you just have to be tough. You have to be able to withstand those failures, to grind through them. But this has just been a season long of struggles and failures.
We'll talk about that mental snapshot in just a moment, because Ozzie Guillen had some interesting things to say before the game and really all year, because we've mentioned that every day he's got to come up with something new to say about Adam Dunn.
Well, and that's what makes it tough for a ball club, for an organization, because they've got to respond each and every day to questions about Adam Dunn. Well, what's Ozzie Guillen going to say? What's Kenny Williams going to say? What's Paul Konerko going to say? I don't know. Just go ask Adam Dunn. And as the player, Adam Dunn, I mean, I'm sure he feels bad that everybody else has to address his issue.
He has no answers either. He draws a walk here. From Fausto Carmona. Now, Fausto Carmona lists his favorite movie as Major League 2, and that's how I'm going to get you to this here, Eric. I'm not bringing this up because the plot of the movie has the Indians and White Sox in the ALCS. Ozzie Guillen told the media the other day he hates the scene in there where the Indians bring in the sports psychologist to talk to Charlie Sheen. And boy, there's a line in there somewhere about Charlie Sheen and psychologists, but that's not why I brought that up either. Guillen said, I don't want doctors telling my guys anything. I want a pitching coach to tell them, or a hitting coach. Bring me Pete Rose, bring me Roger Clemens, and they can tell my guy how to get through a bad time, because they've been there before. And it's kind of what you're saying, that the only way to get out of your head, so to speak, is to perform. You got to get out there and get some hits.
Well, look, there are different remedies for different guys, and you've got to find whatever it is that works. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is you've got to have some success.
Diaz with a chopper foul. And see, I find myself, I guess, Eric, I don't know about you, disagreeing a little bit with Ozzie, because I know that there's a lot of guys, because like you're saying, this is a sport built around failure. It helps to have a guy, a performance enhancement coach, they're calling it now. Boston's got one. The Texas Rangers have one, just to kind of walk you through how do you deal with that failure.
Well, again, it's what it is it's another resource, and it's not for everybody. I mean, some people will use that. Others may say, hey, I've got to go out all night, or another one may say, I'm going to just get into a certain routine. Everybody has their own way of dealing with failure. And there's no one right way.
But to Ozzy's point, and maybe it sounds a little bit simplistic, I guess, but hey, go out there and hit 300, and then don't worry about it. And
Ozzy knows it's not that easy. He knows that.
Well, brick by brick, Adam Dunn will have to be put back together because he's going to be with the White Sox for a little bit. Long-term contract. Piazza disposed of. And Chevrolet proudly supports the great game of baseball at all levels. See how they're making kids' baseball dreams come true across the USA at ChevyBaseball.com. So a walk to Dunn, a strikeout of Piazza, and here's Brent Morel. Everything's starting to move pretty nicely here right now for Carmona.
Well, you see he's really settled down. He had 27 pitches in that first inning.
He's retired 6 out of 7. Remember, last time out lasted just an inning and a third. Just a wipeout of the series for the Indians against the Tigers, and the White Sox can put their hands in the air and say, yeah, we had that one too. Both these managers telling us before the game, you very simply have to tip your hat to the Tigers.
Well, Ozzie Guillen telling us it didn't matter who was playing that Detroit Tiger Ball Club when his team played against them. He felt that they were as good as any team in baseball. Manny Acta telling us the same thing.
You talk about a talented team just hitting their stride.
Oh. Well, Ozzie was telling us he didn't think they hit a ball soft. Everything they hit was a shot here, shot there.
Off Carmona and right to Kipnis. He's going to go to second and get the out there. If Juan Pierre is running from first, maybe you're not doing that, but Adam Dunn kind of lumbering on in, and they had time to make that play.
See Carmona showing his hand, saying, I'm okay. Not sure that ball hit him square. It almost grazed him, shot right up. Kipnis being aware, you see it bounces. Almost looks like it hits him on the thigh or the arm, or maybe the left forearm. Anyhow, regardless, an out in the books.
Beckham's got the only RBI in this game. Another chance for Carmona to field to his position. Shot puts it over there, and that's it here in the 4th inning. The lead sentence on Duncan's resume might be right now, has recently homered twice in one game off Justin Verlander. Did that this past Wednesday, and it still wasn't enough to deny Verlander win number 22 for the year. The Tigers, as we were just talking about, Eric Karros, have just pulled away, just peeled out of the parking lot, and they're gone.
Well, they have. They've separated themselves. Obviously, Verlander has gotten a lot of the headlines. How about Valverde, though, at the back end? 42 of 42, if I'm not mistaken, this year.
The killer V's. That ball jumps. That ball off the wall. Shelley Duncan trying to get to second base. And will. Now, the ball can definitely carry in the daytime here. And Philip Umber just turned and I think was kind of hoping that someone would catch up to that. Nobody did.
Oh, this is a good ballpark to hit. This ball up in the zone, and you see Duncan. He gets his arms extended, able to get the barrel of the bat on the ball. He's watching it. God, give me a few more feet so I don't have to run so hard. Oh, come on. Oh. Oh, I know that feeling.
You might have been out at second base, though.
Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wave and a miss by Chisenhall, who homered a couple times yesterday. Yeah, Chisenhall a 2-homer game this week. Duncan a 2-homer game this week. But to get that done off Verlander, and just to get back to the Tigers for a second, any doubt that Justin Verlander is your Cy Young?
No doubt. How's that for conversation right there?
That's pretty
no
quick.
Doubt. Yep.
Verlander might get the pitching triple crown. Leads the American League in wins and strikeouts. He trails Jared Weaver by a fraction of a point in ERA. So here's a question for you, talking point. MVP as well as Cy Young?
You know, I'm not sure that I like a pitcher winning the MVP unless their season is just so ridiculously outstanding. And it's getting to that point, but I'm not sure he's an MVP award winner.
Back up the middle it goes. Duncan will stop at third. Matt Laporta coming up in time for a DirecTV game break. Let's get you caught up on those Tigers. Wilson Betemit, pretty nice little pickup. Homers. Joe Mauer would respond. That's only the third of the year for Joe Mauer. This game is tied 1-1 in Detroit. Get every MLB game and the most in HD. Call 1-800-DirecTV. And again, those three teams were bunched to within a couple games of each other just about 3-4 weeks ago. Not anymore. Infield, the double play depth. And Laporta, who struck out in the third inning, going to be asked to get this runner home from third, if nothing else.
Well, and these are the types of at-bats that manager Maniac wants to see Laporta and how he approaches them. What's the plan? Can't just go up there free swinging.
Into right center field. That'll get the job done. Gets down in the count. And he puts it on the warning track out there. 2 runs are coming in on a double from Laporta. Boy, Philip Umber had been breezing along through 4, but now here in the 5th it goes double, single, double.
Well, nice job by Laporta. He goes the other way with it. You see he stays behind the ball. It's not the most picturesque swing, but he's able to stay behind it, doesn't get his weight out in front. And you watch the runners right here. See over at first base, they read it. First base, he reads it all the way and does what he's supposed to do. Duncan at third base, he's got nowhere to go until he knows that ball is either caught or it's dropped. A nice job of running the bases.
Marson showing bunt and takes a strike. Yeah, you've got the number 9 hitter up and with nobody out in the inning. The thought is to push this man to third and have a real good shot to make it 3-1. Now keep in mind, all 3 hits this inning, Umber was ahead in the count. He's ahead all the way here, 0-2. And facing a guy that's already gotten a hit against him today, Lou Marson. They're going to make him try it for a 3rd time, but not on that pitch.
It's a bit of an interesting call right there. Marson, a couple of hits last night, hitting his first at bat today.
Now they let him swing. And it's as if he had bunted well, because you've got the same result. Runner at 3rd, 1 down. Kosuke Fukudome, who started the year here in Chicago on the north side. We mentioned earlier, probably the last guy Philip Umber is comfortable seeing, because the last time these guys faced each other, Fukudome is the one that lined that shot that hit Umber right above the eye. Infield in about halfway. And Fukudome pokes it in the air to left. Pierre with a runner tagging. Balloons that throw in on 1 bounce. Got him! Wasn't a line drive throw, but you don't have a sprinter speed guy coming down the line from 3rd, and it works out well for Chicago. Just made the throw. A.J. Przinsky blocked the plate, and it stays 2-1. The Indians over the White Sox. We'll show you that blocking of the plate in just a moment. Inning begins with 3 umpires instead of 4. We'll try to find out what's up with that. Don't see Ed Rappiano on the field right now. The home plate umpire, Ed Hickok's got to make the call a moment ago as Pierre got the throw in on the fly ball hit by Fukudome. And Przinsky sealing off entry to the plate. Shelley Duncan out. It stays 2-1 Cleveland.
Well, you watch, Juan Pierre gets a running start, so he gets some momentum behind the ball and throws the ball as well as he can possibly throw it. Look at AJ. He's blocking the plate with that foot. The runner never, ever, Laporta never gets to home plate. And you see the running start, and Pierre knows he's got to do that in order to have a chance to throw the run out. You see that left leg of Pierzynski. Look at, never gets to the plate, does Laporta, until after the tag is applied.
Lifted to left field. So there's one out in Fox Saturday Baseball, by the way, sponsored by Chevrolet, proud to support youth baseball across the country. Fukudome has been involved in a couple double plays now and has not hit the ball on the ground. He struck out into a double play and flied out into the other. So Brian Honora has moved to first base as we check the umpires here. And again, Ed Rapiano, the crew chief, has left, and we'll endeavor to find out what's happened. Fausto Carmona had a very rocky first inning, but he pitched out of it. Gave up one run in the second, had a good-looking third, good-looking fourth. Carmona had nearly a Cy Young caliber season in 2007, and it just all went over a cliff. 2008, 5.5 ERA, control problems, rib injury. 09, major control problems, ERA over 6. Last year, a bit of a bounce back. This year, he is 6-14, and an ERA again in the 5s. I think the tipping point seemed to be that 07 playoff series against Boston when the Red Sox just laid off that sinker.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that hitters have done against him. They've made him throw pitches. Just go up there swinging at the first pitch.
Ramirez pops out.
If a guy doesn't have real good control as a hitter, you can go up there and you can wait him out. Force him to throw a few pitches, because eventually he's going to throw a pitch that you like. And that's when you jump on him. You're going up there and you're just saying, I'm going to swing at the first pitch. The first strike I see. All you're doing is helping him out.
Carmona gets Paul Konerko now. Now, Konerko was tied for the major league lead in home runs through the first day of summer. He had 21 on June 21, but since then he's hit only 8. Two home runs away from tying Joe Carter for 51st all time. There's a recovery we're speaking of with Fausto Carmona.
As you mentioned earlier, the White Sox had him on the ropes, bases loaded, 1 out. Alex Rios strikes out, and then Adam Dunn strikes out.
Got to be careful 2-0 with Konerko, do you not?
Well, 2-0, and you've got 2 outs. So Konerko, all he's doing as a hitter is looking for something that he can drive into the seats. He's sitting on a spot, and he's going to try and unload if he gets it in that spot. You see those numbers. The great White Sox hitters of all time.
Put Frank Thomas first on a lot of those lists. Been a tough year offensively overall for Chicago. Ooh, look out. Paul Konerko gets hit by the pitch on 2-0. Obviously, the idea was to back him off the plate, but it ran all the way in and hit him.
You don't want to let him extend his arms. There you see it looks like it gets a little bit of the elbow and then the side just above his belt. We saw him earlier today in the clubhouse, and that left arm and tricep area was all bruised up.
Yeah. Well, the White Sox not even averaging 4 runs a game here at home. That hasn't happened since they were in the old stadium in the late 80s.
Go 1-2.
A.J. Przinsky, who, remember, blocked home plate, made sure that the Indians wouldn't add a run last inning. Tough to explain. Been a lot of dysfunction around the White Sox this year, but that's a really weird one to be 32-38 at home, but they've got a winning record on the road. No other team in the league can say that. On the ground, second base for Kipnis. And Carmona's done a really nice job since those first 2 innings here today. 2-1 Cleveland. And crossovers, and by Michelin, a better way forward. The Indians trying to add to a 2-1 lead. They doubled up the White Sox yesterday 8-4. The Detroit Tigers sure look like they are going to be the winners of the AL Central, but both the Indians and the White Sox have had their up moments in 2011. For the Indians, that 30-15 start that had everybody shocked. And the White Sox started quite the other way, Eric Karros. They were 11-22 at the beginning of the season. So check out Jason Kipnis.
You know, about a month ago, I really thought that the White Sox were poised to make a move. I thought that Rios and Dunn would be more productive during this last stretch. You know, their bullpen had really come into their own. Peavy was back. Just one of those seasons for them that just weren't able to get over the hump.
Umber carves up Kipnis. One down here in the 6th inning. And the report that we're getting, by the way, on Ed Rapuano, the crew chief, and the guy that started out umpiring at first base today, he's got a neck problem.
Well, hopefully Ed feels better tomorrow.
You got a night off in Chicago. You don't want to be just holed up in your hotel with an ice pack on your neck, do you?
Nope, not the place to spend an evening when you're in Chicago.
Jim Thome comes up. Got to be careful with necks, though. Peyton Manning has taught us nothing else. Gratuitous NFL promo for tomorrow. Don't forget, pregame show right here on Fox an hour before kickoff. 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. Thome now with 602 home runs. The majority of those in an Indians uniform. Lashing that one, beating the shift. Got all those infielders bunched over there, but Thome rockets it right by him. We'll flash you back. He hit .599 and a 600 in the same game. You said it earlier, there's not a guy in baseball that has something negative to say about Jim Thome.
One of the genuine good guys and Hall of Famer.
Isn't that weird then to report that his hero growing up was Dave Kingman, who was seen as such like an ornery kind of guy? And Jim Thome, year in, year out, you do a poll of who's the nicest guy in baseball. It's always Thome.
Yeah.
Sizemore waves and misses. He's had a tough time since coming back off the DL. Doesn't have a hit, as a matter of fact. 0 for 13.
Well, Manny Acta telling us, prior to the game how tough this kid is and playing through pain. And you look at those numbers, 05 through 08, this guy averaged almost a 30-30. 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. Since that time, he's 9-7.
Umber is out of the inning. It stays 2-1. CLA as the shadows fall across here in Chicago. Alex Rios set to lead off, and Fausto Carmona mowing him down the last 3 innings. Deals the strike to Rios. He started to show some positive signs of late, but the stats obviously overall what the Sox were banking on here in 2011. When White Sox coach Joey Cora was the general manager in the Puerto Rican League of a team down there, he drafted and helped develop Alex Rios, kind of brought him along. The hope in Chicago was that history would repeat itself, and last year it kind of did. Rios had a terrific 2010. I'm trying to get him right here late in 2011. Is Joey listening to tunes or to us, do you figure?
I'm guessing Joey's probably listening to us right there. How you doing there, Joey? All right.
Busted. Totally busted. A tip of the cap from Ozzie to Eric Karros upstairs. Yeah, we know you're listening. We're real careful.
Yeah, those two are.
Busted. On 1-2 to Rios now. Make it 2-2. A little adjustment that Rios has recently made with his hands seems to have finally gotten him going. Hands now a bit further away from his body. He's starting to take baseballs back up the middle.
Good pitch there to lay off of.
Yeah, it seemed like Carmona was frustrated that he didn't get his guy to swing.
Yeah, that's very enticing. Again, when 2-2 pitch, very close to the zone. Carmona gets it to dive out.
Well, Carmona, giving up the 2 doubles in the second inning, allowed that 1 run. Gave up a couple of hits in the first inning, too, but pitched out of a jam. 3rd, 4th, 5th. Everything's been very good. He ducked out of the way. Kipnis makes the play. This October, the American League's best teams will look to their brightest stars to see which one becomes the hero that leads them into the Fall Classic. Legends are born in October, and our exclusive coverage of the ALCS begins October 8th, only here on Fox. Boy, we go from that Mount Rushmore of potential heroes to poor Adam Dunn. Now hitting 161. Only one thing it looks like, Eric, will save Dunn from having the lowest single-season batting average in modern baseball history, and that's if he doesn't get enough plate appearances to qualify for that indignity. I'm wondering if that's something that the White Sox will monitor. 54 more, and he will qualify.
You know, I think in this situation, you've got to go to the player and just say, you know, what do you want to do? What'll get you in as good a mental state going into this offseason as possible? I mean, quite frankly, who cares if you have the lowest average? I mean, the bottom line is you're trying to prepare Adam for next season. So if that means getting at bats, seeing some more American League pitching, trying to end on a good note, then you run him out there. If he's saying, look, you know what? I just need to get away, and that getting away means on September 10th, you give him a break.
And I know what you're saying. I mean, you want guys to not care about their stats, and that's fine. But do you really want to be remembered by your children and your children's children as the guy that had had that mark in the book. That
I can honestly, I can tell you right now, his children's children are going to just be thanking him for taking care of them financially. Nobody's going to care about. I mean, that's something that I'll bring up or you'll bring up in a telecast. But as a former player, it's just like, who cares? Who cares?
A chance to finish strong. There's always a chance. As Azagian was saying, it's what are you doing right now to get better?
Just to feel good, to say, hey, the last 2 weeks I have something to build on. It's all you're looking for as a former player.
There you go. He hangs in there and belts it into center field. Tell you what, the last 2 at bats, a walk and a work the count base hit.
Look, he'll take it, but I can tell you right now, it's more of, he's feeling more of just a sense of relief down there at first. He's not going to say, oh boy, I squared that one up or I hit that one. When this guy is hitting the ball and he's hitting the ball right, I mean, he can hit it out at just about any stadium. You know, like I said, he's down there at first just going, oh.
But when you're batting .072 with 2 strikes on you, I mean, any base hit you'll take.
Yeah, but again, it's not about base hits for him. It's about hitting the ball hard.
Something he did with regularity for 8 seasons, 9 seasons in the big leagues.
Hard and far.
Alejandro De Aza doubled and scored in the 2nd and struck out in the 4th. De Aza's getting a nice long look these last few weeks, because I guess if he can keep doing what he's done so far, there's a thought, Eric, that the White Sox would save a ton of money letting him play left field next year instead of Juan Pierre. Not that they don't love Juan Pierre. They love how he goes about his business. That's Chad Durbin up in the bullpen for Cleveland. White had 100 pitches for Carmona today. And again, did not get out of the 2nd inning in his last start. Outside 2-2. De Aza's a good hitter. .322 batting average in 100 games at AAA this year. The Indians will get reinforcements from AAA soon too, but they want to see if their AAA team can actually win the Governor's Cup. They're set to play in the finals starting in a couple of days. That would be back-to-back AAA titles for the Indians AAA team if they can pull that off. So as you're pointing towards the future, that's something nice to point at anyway.
It is, but again, you want to develop players and you want to feed them into the big league level. And you know, it is nice for your minor league system to win some championships. It's good for morale. It also teaches guys how to win.
They'll take on either the Red Sox or the Phillies AAA affiliate in the final. A lot of people thinking it could be Red Sox and Phillies at the varsity level this year too. De Aza cranks one towards right center. That ball jumps. De Aza hits it off the top of the wall. Dunn lumbers to 3rd and is held. Boy, that ball was a whisker away from being a 2-run home run. Instead, it's a double that drives in none.
You see Adam Dunn, he's running right from the get-go. The ball bounces right back to Sizemore. He plays it well because that wall is angled. It shoots right back to him. He turns, gets to his cutoff man. They have to hold Adam Dunn at 3rd base.
Brent Morel had a September home run last year against Fausto Carmona. Got first base open. He got Durbin ready in the bullpen.
Look at Fausto Carmona. Look at that hat just dripping with sweat.
If you go get Durbin, one thing to note is that Morel is 2 for 3 against him. Not a huge sample size, but still has had a little bit of success. But Maniacta's going to make that move. A tiring and sweaty Carmona is done. For now, it's 2-1. Responsible for runners at second and third with just one out here in the last of the 6th inning in Chicago. Brent Morel about to bat against Chad Durbin. We mentioned Morel has had a couple of hits against Durbin in the past. Adam Dunn at third. Diaz is at second. Diaz narrowly missing what would have been a 2-run home run. And now Morel is charged with getting these guys around and in. Infield in a little bit, about halfway. And remember, with Ed Rapuano, the crew chief, unavailable, it's a 3-umpire game right now. And when it's second and third, you've essentially got no first base umpire. Brian Honora stationed closer to second. If there's a close play at first base, it's an odd angle. Honora's going to be running over from second base to make that call. And a home plate umpire running up the line, who also can't really vacate, though, because he's got to be there for a play at the plate. Beckham is on deck, the number 9 hitter who has driven in the only Chicago run. Durbin does get a strike here. Inning starting with a ground out. Adam Dunn took a 2-strike pitch up the middle for a single. Then the double from Diaz, his second double of the day. down and in, loaded up for Beckham.
Beckham has to be patient, wait for something that he can drive. You know, very easy as a hitter to get excited and get over anxious in these situations. You just have to remember the pitcher is the one in trouble and you are the one in control.
Well, Durbin's all over the place so far. And he has a half a dozen wild pitches this year, by the way, in about 50 innings. Wild pitch here makes it a 2-2 game.
Well, Durbin, a veteran guy for all those years with the Philadelphia Phillies. Pitching a lot of pressure games.
And Beckham, who moves pretty well, has hit into only 6 double plays all season, if you're thinking about that. High ball's a strike, 1-1.
That's a great job by Beckham, though. That pitch, although it's a strike, it's not something that he's looking for. It's down in the zone. That's a pitcher's pitch. You know, a lot of times hitters get up there and they say, well, it's a strike, I'm swinging.
Well, and Beckham, the self-critique that he has of himself. He says, I watch tape, I see most of the time I'm getting myself out. I need to not be so anxious. I got to swing at better pitches.
Easy to recognize, tough to do.
Works that count to 3-1. Juan Pierre on deck.
Now he's got to approach this like he approached the count earlier, 1-0. Even though it may be a strike, it's got to be something that he wants to hit. He has 2 strikes to play with.
He will take a walk, and we're tied. Carmona has to hope for a no decision now.
As a starting pitcher, that's very frustrating. Thinking, wow, I could have done that.
8 balls and 2 strikes coming out of the bullpen. Durbin walks the number 8 and number 9 hitters, and Morel hardly walks at all. It was only his 12th all year. And now Pierre. And that was almost the wild pitch that we were discussing a moment ago. Nice stop by Marson. And with Pierre, I put it to you here, EK, even though it would be really unconventional, this is a guy that doesn't mind dropping down a bunt.
The reason I would not bunt in this situation, very rarely does he hit into a double play, one of the toughest in all baseball to double up, and very rarely does he strike out. I take my chances with either one of those rather than bunting. Bunt, you have a force out at the plate.
Down in the count, 1-2. Remember, Adam Dunn started this little uprising with that 2-strike single up the middle. Swept along foul, will do it again. If the inning keeps on going for the White Sox, one thing to keep in mind, after Ramirez, it's Paul Konerko. And Konerko lifetime against Durbin is 12 for 29. Two balls, 2 strikes. They're loaded up here for Chicago. Rafael Perez, a lefty. Pierre into center field, down for a base hit. The White Sox have the lead.
Well, Pierre has a good at-bat, waits him out, gets a pitch that he can drive. Doesn't try to do too much with it, but just enough. Serves it out there to center field. White Sox cautious on the base paths, going one base at a time. You see, getting the bat head out, gets the ball out in front, a very hittable pitch.
Well, there's been some big two-strike hits from Chicago today.
And you see, you watch the runners. Runner at second base went back, and that probably wasn't the right move. As a base runner, when you're out there, you want to look and recognize where the outfielders are playing before the pitch is made. If you know that, then when the ball is hit, you have a better gauge. Will the outfielder catch it or not?
Alexei Ramirez 1 for 3 today. A chance to blow it open here for Chicago. Durbin's come on. There's been a couple of walks and a single to the 8-9-1 hitters. Carmona suddenly is on the hook for a loss.
You see Durbin going with two sliders right there on the outside part of the plate. I think I'd come back with another slider, just move it out further on the outside part of the plate.
Got his man. After the settle down session from the pitching coach Tim Belcher. A strikeout, but now he's got to face Paul Konerko.
Well, that was a nice job by Durbin, and where he benefited, he worked ahead in the count. It was a first pitch strike with the slider. You see, watch this. This first pitch, Ramirez is taken all the way. Now you're 0-1. You start out there, you miss that, you're 0-2. Now Durbin recognizes this and goes with another off-speed pitch out of the zone. Gets Ramirez to expand his strike zone. Goes back to the dugout.
Konerko already has a grand slam in this series. His 10th career, tying Robin Ventura for the club record. Jesse Crain warming in the Chicago pen. We're not where you want to be with Konerko.
Well, no, and that's a difference between Ramirez and Konerko. With Ramirez, Durbin was 0-2. He controls the at-bat. Now, situation's reversed. Konerko ahead, 2-0. He controls everything right now. Durbin has to come into him.
Dialed it up on 2-0, trying to replicate what happened on Thursday. Three and one with Przinsky on deck. They've got a lefty ready in the bullpen if it gets to that.
I think he comes back with that outside fastball that he got him on the 2-0 pitch.
Strike on the outside edge. Thought he had an RBI walk.
It's a pitcher's pitch right there as a hitter. You want to see better, 3-1. Durbin, he wants that. He didn't get the pitch 2-1. Thought he threw a strike. think if I'm Durbin, I've got to go back out there. It's the only place I've had any success.
Tap to short. The play is to first. And the Indians out of the inning. Chicago takes the lead, and we're coming back after a word from your local Fox station. Your instant win game card for a chance to win World Series tickets. Compliments of Scott's. With Eric Karros, Josh Lewin. As the White Sox and the Indians progress, and it'll be without Philip Umber. He has thrown only 73 pitches. But after a 26-minute bottom of the sixth inning. Well, here we go to pitcher number 2 today, Jesse Crain.
When you see the 8 wins out of the bullpen, been very effective all year long. Been used quite a bit as well.
Duncan, Chisenhall, and Laporta in the 7th inning for Cleveland. Umber, who hasn't won at home in a long time, going to turn it over to the bullpen to make it so. Duncan, though, gives it a ride. Pierre is back. This game is tied just like that. And there will be no win today for Philip Umber. Duncan with a double and a home run.
That's Shelley Duncan's 5th home run already of this month. 10 days in.
Remember, 2 of those off Verlander. Duncan providing some inspiration before the game, too. A Navy SEAL buddy of his addressed the entire team in the clubhouse. Manny Act to close the clubhouse. And all the guys said it was indeed inspirational to hear from Shelley Duncan's friend from back home. Duncan responds with a double and a homer today. And Chisenhall, a guy that had a couple of home runs yesterday. Shelley Duncan, the son of Dave Duncan, the longtime pitching coach under Tony La Russa. Dave Duncan first joined Tony with the White Sox right here back in '83, the winning ugly season for Chicago. was a Chicago native, Doug Rader. While managing the Rangers, it put that phrase on that '83 White Sox team kind of unwittingly. Later said he was misquoted, but by then the phrase was on the T-shirts, and the Sox were a runaway winner of the AL West back then. Chisenhall down on strikes. As for the current AL West, of course, the White Sox are not in that anymore. Ron Washington makes a pitching change, and this did not work out well. Scott Sizemore, a grand slam to break things open in Arlington. That is now an 8-5 game. The A's over the Rangers are only in the 6th. Get every MLB game and the most in HD. Call 1-800-DIRECT-TV. Boy, it doesn't seem like any pitching changes have worked today. Ron Washington can't win for losing. Manny Actors made one that didn't work real well, and Ozzie Guillen, same story. Matt Laporta doubled in a couple runs in the 5th. Takes a strike right here. The Angels and the Rangers, really the one good division race going right now. The Yankees and the Red Sox also separated by a couple of games, but the thought is that the loser of that gets the wild card.
Well, and it just seems Texas, because of their offense, more of a power ball club, it just seems as if they've run away with the division, but in reality, the Angels have stuck with them for most of the season, and only 2 games back in the loss column. They finished the season with 3 games against one another. See Perez there warming up.
Yeah, those 3 games will be in Anaheim, and if Mike Scioscia twists the rotation, boy, he's got 3 real good starters in that rotation.
Well, that's it. The Angels, they have the pitching. Texas has the offense. The Angels have struggled at times to score runs.
Rip and a miss. Laporta on a high fastball down on strikes.
Well, this just is exploiting a young hitter. This pitch out of the zone, up, it entices a young hitter. Thinks he's going to get to that fastball. Most guys, even if you're able to get to that pitch, you're going to pop it up. And when you see it, you're thinking, oh man, if I can get to this, that thing's going in the seats.
And Lou Marson can't connect on another 95-mile-an-hour pitch. And EK, just back to the AL West. Think of it this way, I guess. If the Rangers have a 2-game lead going into those last 3 games, that forces the Angels to have to sweep. 1-game lead, well, you take 2 out of 3 for the Angels. You force a 1-game playoff. And it just doesn't seem like the Rangers can shake the Angels. You're getting this sense that they really could stay within a game or 2 of each other.
I think they can, but the kicker is going to be after this series that the Angels finish up with the Yankees. I believe they go on the road, and they go on the road for an extended stretch.
They do, yeah. They got to go east.
It's not going to be an easy trip.
Baltimore and Toronto after they start off in Oakland. So clear Customs come back from Toronto and get ready to rock and roll against the Rangers. And it really looked like the AL Central would provide a really interesting race as well. But of course, the Tigers just decided that we shouldn't have that. Won 15 out of 19.
Well, and what the Tigers have that these other clubs don't have, they have a bona fide number 1, and they have a closer that has been perfect.
Chipped in the air to right field. We are at the stretch here in Chicago. Middle of the order coming up. This game now tied thanks to Shelley Duncan. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Warner Brothers Pictures' Dolphin Tale in theaters September 23rd. Tomorrow, start your NFL Sunday with the Fox NFL Sunday pregame show. Our guys pay special tribute to the 10th anniversary of 9/11. Plus, they'll tell you if the Eagles have what it takes to live up to all that hype. It's the NFL Sunday pregame show tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, only right here on Fox. Rafael Perez takes over. The third Cleveland pitcher today, 3-3 tie, and a strike to Przinsky. Been a solid season for Perez and really this entire Indians bullpen. Second best ERA in the American League out of the pen. Lofted towards left. Duncan puts it away. Now Perez, the guy with a real good slider. We were talking earlier, EK, about that 07 ALCS where the Indians were one win away from going to the World Series. That was a tough series for Perez. 3 games, 1 inning total. Gave up 8 runs. But it's funny to think that the Indians were that close to going to a World Series just 4 years ago. Chris Sale in the bullpen now for Chicago. The Indians fell down quickly after 07. They were not supposed to have worked their way back into contention until at least next year, before they certainly competed here in 2011.
Well, they did, and you know, that's even with the number of injuries that this ball club has had. See Manny Acta. Again, he told us before the game that the thing that's probably impressed him most is their ability to stay afloat, to continue to battle with all of the things they've had to deal with.
Rios is out 2 away. We talk about having to deal with things. Here's Adam Dunn. And it hasn't been a bad day for Adam Dunn, even though he struck out in the first inning, a walk and a single. He has seen 21 pitches today in 3 trips to the plate.
Well, that's something over the course of his career he's always done, whether it's garnering a lot of walks or strikeouts. He will see a lot of pitches. This year, though, the problem with it, when that pitcher's made a mistake, he hasn't been able to take advantage of that pitch.
Another problem is when the pitcher throws with his left hand.
I'd say that.
3 for 81 against lefties. All 3 of those hits are singles. Put it in play, but it's a 1-2-3 inning. We'll go to the 8th, tied 3-3. 8th. And the top third of the Cleveland Indian batting order in a 3-3 tie. Here's Fukudome. And immediately pops it into the shallow recesses of the outfield. Ramirez has got it. Boy, Juan Pierre throwing out Laporta on the Fukudome fly ball in the 5th looms large in this game. And I tell you what else does, Eric Karros. The Chicago White Sox in the 1st inning and in the 6th inning had a chance to really get something done. They didn't do it.
Well, especially that 1st inning, the bases loaded, 1 out. Rios and Dunn coming to the plate. They don't get anything. As you mentioned, though, a nice defensive play, not only by Juan Pierre, but also by catcher A.J. Brzezinski, blocking the plate. Laporta never got to the bag until after he was tagged out.
One to Kipnis in there for strike 2. Well, Brzezinski stuck out the leg right there as well. It wasn't quite as big a deal on that. This is the real big deal, the mini moment. Brought to you by Burger King and the all-new BK Burger and Chicken Minis.
Look at that left foot. A.J. Brzezinski blocks the plate. Laporta never gets home.
Yeah, bracing as he did with that left cleat is pretty much a difference in the game right now. Kipnis, the second out, brings up Cabrera.
Juan Pierre, 5 outfield assists this year. You know, the book on him is always going to test his arm, run. But again, he put himself in great position with momentum moving through the catch and able to make a one-hop throw.
Asdrubal Cabrera wearing the number a popular former Indians Venezuelan middle infielder wore, the number 13 of Omar Vizquel. Mike Vizquel came up with the Mariners. What a great acquisition for Cleveland. Asdrubal Cabrera, even though he's faded in the second half here, Eric. Manny Acta says this guy is our MVP and it's not even close.
Well, he's played the most demanding position on the field outside of catcher. See Omar there. He's starting shortstop in the American League All-Star game. He's hit for power. He stole bases. Just seemed to have worn down here in the second half.
He's never played this many games before, and there's a thought that maybe that's why there's been this second half fade.
Well, there's something to be said about being able to pace yourself, knowing the rigors of a season.
He's going to take a walk, and Jim Thome comes up. Thome leaving behind the Minnesota Twins to come back to the Cleveland Indians. The Twins just massacred by injuries this year and were really going nowhere right from the start. And Thome jumped back in 2 feet right in there to try to get back in a pennant race. We probably said this a half a dozen times today. It looked like there was going to be one. Everybody thought it would be Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, right down to the wire. Because nobody figured on the Tigers doing what they're doing.
Well, the bottom line, head-to-head, the Detroit Tigers just ran over the White Sox and they ran over the Indians.
Thome facing Sale, who is 19 years his junior.
See the most home runs in franchise history. Who's at the top there for the Cleveland Indians? Man, right there, Jim Thome.
Checks his swing. Originally a 13th round draft pick. Just like Albert Pujols.
Played some third base too as well in the minor leagues.
This time takes a strike. Sizemore, who's really struggled since coming off the DL, on deck. Runner goes. Thome belts it foul. Big rip at a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. And Thome actually from Limestone, Illinois, which, if there is such a thing as suburban Peoria, that would be it. Just outside Peoria, which is an hour and a half, couple hours from here. And a great minor league tradition down there, the Peoria Chiefs, who back then were a Cubs affiliate when Thome was growing up. Thome can't connect. Sale and the White Sox out of the inning. And now with a chance to take the lead on Cleveland. Now get DirecTV's best offer of the year. And by Sprint all together now. With Eric Karros, Josh Lewin in Chicago. And the bottom third of this White Sox order has been fantastic today. Diaza, a couple of doubles. A 3-3 tie in the bottom of the eighth. Third baseman Chisenhall in on the grass, just in case there's a bunt. Very pleasant afternoon. Getting towards the evening now. Got a light wind blowing slightly towards right. The game was started today by Fausto Carmona for Cleveland, Philip Umber for Chicago. Umber went 6 innings and walked none. He struck out 7. See the wind kind of blowing in a little bit now.
Well, I like what Diaz has done so far. He's taken 2 pitches, knows his job is just to get down to first base. Suspect he'll be patient here as well.
Yep.
And he's almost got to take 2 pitches right now. You know, and the reason I say that is not that he can't hit Perez, but Perez is tough against left-handed hitters. They can throw you 2 strikes.
Didn't even throw him one. And the go-ahead man is on. Looks like Vinny Pestano is in the bullpen now for Cleveland. Brent Burrell, the batter. You're looking for a Brent Burrell bunt. He's already knocked one of those down here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's bunting right now. See Chisenhall in at third. Laporta holding the runner on. You know, and this is where, as a first baseman, you like to be able to give a sign to your pitcher to say to come over or not come over. And the reason for it is you'd like to get a good jump off of the bag and crash on that bunt. But if you don't know if he's coming over or not, you've got to hold until you see the pitcher go home. See, as a veteran first baseman, you could definitely do that. And even if I were Laporta right now, I'd go to the mound and I'd say something. I'd say, look, I opened my glove, or I've got my right hand on my knee, or something to indicate, come on over.
Is that something that Belcher can
Belcher can do
here?
it. Belcher can do it, but I think right now he's just wanting him to make sure he gets the ball over the plate, let him get the bunt down. If I'm Laporta right now, I'm saying, look, I want to charge. I want to crash. We want to get that lead runner. The only way he can do that is if he gets a good break off of first base.
If Morel gets a bunt down and it's near home plate, one thing to keep in mind is this catcher for Cleveland, young Lou Marson, has a cannon. He'll be looking to go to second base if he can. White Sox had a 1-0 lead after 2. Indians went on top with 2 in the 5th. Sox toggled back on top with 2 in the 6th. Then the Duncan homer tied it 3-3 in the 7th.
And if you're Diaz at first base, the minute you see Laporta move, you bounce.
Diaz had 22 steals at AAA this year in about 100 games. In this inning, strikes have been an issue.
Well, and as much as you worry about the runner at first base, the person you need to worry about is the batter, the hitter at the plate. If you're Perez, you don't want to get behind.
There's the bunt, and there's Marson. He didn't have a play to second, because Diaz got down there in a hurry. He looked that way but couldn't get rid of it. It is a sac bunt. Second sac bunt of the game for Morel.
You see Diaz gets off pretty well. I mean, he comes up and throws. It's a bang-bang play. Marson chooses to get the safe one, go to first base.
With Beckham set to bat, Manny Actors to the mound. And the righty in the pen is Pestano. Trying to keep this game 3-3 between the Indians and the White Sox here on Fox. Next week's telecast of Fox Saturday Baseball presented by Chevrolet starting at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Check local listings for the game and start time in your area. Vinny Pestano having a fine season for Cleveland is going to draw Gordon Beckham here with a runner at second base, just 1 out, bottom 8. And the game tied 3-3. Now Beckham looking for his first 3 RBI game of the entire season. He had an RBI double in the second, an RBI walk in the 6th.
See the defense playing back Cabrera close to Diaz at second.
Flared into the crowd of 26,000 here in Chicago today. The bottom of that order for the White Sox has kept them afloat.
Well, Pestano in also 75 strikeouts. 55 innings pitched. Looking for a strikeout here. See most strikeouts in the American League in relief. Top 5 right there.
It comes from kind of a funky angle.
Well, it creates good movement on the ball. Tough to pick up as a hitter.
Having a tough time finding the strike zone. Yeah, Manny Act is saying exactly what you just said. He's got the explosive fastball with some giddy up, and because of that angle, it's tough to pick up. A lefty will have a better look, and Juan Pierre is a lefty. He's going to bat with 2 on. Beckham on base 3 times. Diaz has been on base 3 times.
Well, we mentioned it earlier, Pierre, very good contact hitter, doesn't hit into a lot of double plays. Last at bat with the bases loaded, hit the ball to center field for a base hit. And this is the type of hitter you want against a guy like Pestano. He's not trying to do too much, just trying to get the barrel of the bat on the ball or shoot something to left center.
Danced out of the way, and a nice stop by Marson. Otherwise, it's second and third with 1 out.
So Pestano just holds that ball too long.
That's a big play by the catcher right
really
there.
Is.
Because if you get that runner at third base, all you need from Juan Pierre is to drop down a bunt, and it's 4-3.
Hey, you're liking that bunt for Pierre, aren't you?
Pierre likes that bunt for Pierre. I'm pushing it. You're right. But not here. They're trying to get that same pitch to do something for him, but it's just not happening. 2-0.
He's trying to run it down and in hopes that Pierre rolls over on him. He gets something out over the plate because of the movement he has on his ball, which would be naturally away from the left-handed hitter. He feels like Pierre will shoot that ball to left field. That's what he's trying to do, so he doesn't want to give him that opportunity.
Runs it in too far again, and now these Indians relievers this inning. We're talking about 2 strikes against 12 balls. Josh Judy getting ready. Pierre walks to load him up. But remember, we've seen this movie before. In the first inning, bases loaded, 1 out. The White Sox couldn't score. 6th inning with a run already in. Bases loaded, 1 out. And again, the White Sox could not score. In that 6th inning, Ramirez struck out with the bases loaded.
Well, in the last 2 1/3 innings, These Indians have issued 5 base on balls.
Everything's missing to about the same spot, whether there's a lefty up there or a righty.
Well, he went right there with the slider. Thought maybe he could command that better than he did those fastballs against Pierre.
New wrinkle that time. And this is the 7th opportunity the White Sox have had with the bases loaded today. They've got 1 hit, 1 walk. But nobody's had that big break it open base hit yet. In there again, 1-2.
The last 2 pitches, Bastano's just reared back and thrown a fastball basically down the middle of the plate. You know, where he's got himself into trouble of trying to nibble, trying to trick the hitter. Probably get away with another fastball right here.
Taken, and down goes Ramirez.
He just went right after him with the fastballs. There was 2 down the middle, and this one on the outside corner, but pretty darn straight.
Paul Konerko, who had a grand slam Thursday. Batted with the bases loaded just a couple innings ago, grounded out.
And you have to think that they're going to go away like they did in the last at-bat. Set up fastballs away. There's one.
Loaded up on walks here in the bottom of the 8th in a tie game. Konerko sends it in the air to right. It goes to the track, but that's it. With a few steps to spare. Fukudome puts it away. It stays 3-3 on Fox. In case he gets a chance to come in, the blood will be pumping.
It's got to be some sort of exercise video you can get a hold of. There you go.
Hi, Omar.
Right there.
Thanks for getting on TV. 3-3 into the ninth as Grady Sizemore takes the strike. Now the White Sox, who have had a miserable time hitting with runners in scoring position all year, taking that to new heights today, as they have stranded a dozen. And they have left the bases loaded 3 times today.
Well, the kicker, they've had a couple of at-bats with 1 out and the bases loaded. Strikeout Rios, strikeout Ramirez.
And then again a strikeout from Ramirez. Yeah, 2 from Ramirez and 1 from Rios with the bases loaded and 1 out. As Tony Sipp gets ready in the Cleveland pen. Yeah, add it up. That's a dozen men left on today. Sizemore waving wildly. Sale strikes him out. Brzezinski completing that play. He'll be leading things off in the bottom of the ninth. Duncan comes up. Time for the one-a-day men's game-changing moment. This tied the game 3-3. Shelley Duncan homering. That in the top of the 7th. One-a-day men's encouraging you to change your game when it comes to health and wellness. Visit changeyourgame.com to check out exclusive video from the pros. Remember, Duncan came up with the Yankees originally and really burst onto the scene. Very outgoing. Joe Torre called him the team mascot for a couple of weeks. The White Sox have Southpaw. The Indians have Shelley Duncan. Well, Chris Sale getting it done.
He struck out the last 3 batters. This pitch down out of the zone. Duncan offers at it.
That brings up another one of the young Indians, Lonnie Chisenhall. Indians' first-round pick in 2008. He was able to hit a lefty okay yesterday. Mark Burley served it up to him. Couple of home runs for Chisenhall in that game, an 8-4 win for Cleveland. Well, Sale is dealing.
Really is 96. Basically slinging it to the outside part of the plate.
Working quickly and striking out another. He strikes out the side, and we'll see if the Sox can take that momentum to the plate with them and win it. a big hit.
Well, they really have a couple opportunities with the bases loaded, 1 out and strikeouts. 2 by Ramirez, 1 by Rios. But in their defense, they made a great play at the plate. Juan Pierre, A.J. Brzezinski nailed Matt Laporta, and got ourselves a tie ball game.
Got a chance for somebody to be a hero against Tony Sipp. And one thing to mention about Tony Sipp, who's had a very good year, when he gets into trouble sometimes, it's with that first batter. He's allowed 9 home runs this year, and most of those have been to the first batter that he faces coming in, 5 out of 9. A.J. Brzezinski is that first batter, and goes the other way to left field, to the track, and at the wall. It's going to hit the bottom of that fence, and Brzezinski ends up at second.
Hey, you were almost that good, Josh. Almost that good.
That would have been a boy, oh boy, right there, but not quite. Going to have a pinch runner. As Brzezinski does his job, Eduardo Escobar will take over and become that winning man. A.J. Brzezinski jumps on the first pitch he sees and deposits it at the base of that wall and left. And now Rios.
Now you got Rios, Dunn coming up to the plate. 2 guys that have been marred by difficult seasons.
You know, they're going to go ahead and do what it makes sense to do, keeping in mind that Adam Dunn is 3 for 82 against lefties this year.
Well, and it's going to be interesting, but you almost want Dunn, if he gets to the plate, obviously, with runners in first and second, you'd rather have him, if he's going to make it out, do it with a strikeout rather than of the ground ball type, because he hits a ground ball, a candidate for a double play.
You wouldn't ask Adam Dunn to actually drop one down here, would you? His last sack bunt was in 2006.
But I don't think you'd ask him, but these are one of those situations where, hey, maybe Adam Dunn is thinking about doing it. There you see, he's fishing for a run right there, boys.
Well, I don't know. If I'm 3 for 82 against lefties, and I got a chance to get the hot-hitting Alejandro De Aza up there, I'd think about it.
Yeah, the problem is you bunt it and you pop it up, you just going, what the heck was I thinking?
That is not a bunt. Been a moderately productive day for Dunn with a walk and a single.
Just want to keep the ball off of the ground and stay out of a double play.
It's a late swing here, and he's behind 0-2.
But you can just see he doesn't get ready. You know, you've got to get ready to hit. It just appears in that it way late, doesn't start any movement until the pitch is more than halfway to the plate.
On 0-2. The miserable season continues for Dunn. Now they've got Dayan Vicito coming up to pinch hit now, and I know it's weird, Eric, but I mean, because he's making all that money and he's got all the stats on the back of his bubble gum card, but boy, in this situation, you just wonder, 3-3 game, he doesn't hit lefties. If you're not going to bunt, why not get a right-hander up there?
Well, you just got to let him go out there. You made that commitment to him prior to this year that he's going to be the guy. You know, the reality is if you win this game or not win this game, it's not going to change your season, but you need to try to get Dunn some confidence.
The 22-year-old Vicito has a chance to win it now. This guy was having a terrific season at AAA. A lot of White Sox fans wondered why he wasn't here in Chicago. As the months just kept flying by. May into June, June into July. And since he's been up, he has hit pretty much the way a lot of the fans said he would if the Sox would give him a chance. .300 hitter at AAA this year, 50 extra base hits.
It's a great off-speed pitch there. Vizquel out in front of that.
Do you consider coming back with that, following it up? If you're Tony's tip?
If I'm throwing something hard down and in.
Brent Morel is on deck. And again, it's been this bottom third of the batting order all day that's been most productive for Chicago.
Go off speed, down and in. Try and throw it at the hitter's back leg.
Knocked down by Marson, who's done that a couple times.
Yeah, nice job. Done a wonderful job back there defensively today.
Remember last inning that became an issue as well. Adam Dunn now 3 for 83 against lefties.
This season can't end soon enough for him.
Bounced it up there, and Marson blocks it again. And now 3 balls, 2 strikes.
You see him get down on the knees and just keep the ball out in front. It hits off his chest and bounces straight out in front.
Do you consider sending the runners here, EK? You got a burner, that pinch runner out there at second base, Escobar.
Yeah, no, I don't think I do. And the reason I don't is I want to give myself one more shot. I'd hate it to hit into a line out double play. Doesn't really matter if I've got a guy down there at third base with 2 outs. He's going to score on a base hit anyway.
They're not going. And that one is ball 4. A variety of things to ponder now. Brent Morel has already dropped down a couple of bunts today. A sac fly gets it done. There have been 7 walks by the Cleveland bullpen today.
Yeah, 7 in the last 3 1/3.
Now it's been all about the bases loaded opportunities for the White Sox today, Eric, and the fact that they have not cashed in with 1 out. Remember, the 3 times they've had the bases loaded 1 out, it's been a strikeout all 3 times. Brent Morel will try to change all that and win the game for Chicago. Now remember, this is a guy that hadn't even walked a dozen times all year coming in today. He does have a walk this afternoon. Infield in halfway. And it's 1-1.
It's an awfully big swing when all you really need to do is shoot the ball to the right side. And again, it's difficult as a hitter because you've got that adrenaline going. You're thinking, all right, I'm going to crank one here, really hit it hard. But all you need to do, you spread out and just put the bat on the ball. Little flare to right center, win yourself a ball game. Those are two awfully big swings. That pitch out of the zone. Again, right now, all you're doing up there is trying to protect. Spread that stance out a little bit. Put the ball in play.
Couldn't do it. And once again, with the bases loaded and one out, it's a strikeout.
Just really not a good at-bat from the get-go. The swing that I felt that he really gave away the at-bat was that first strike. He swung like he was trying to hit it 20 rows deep.
Been a real nice day for Beckham today. With a bases loaded walk, another walk, and an RBI double.
Well, he's been patient up to this point. He's got to continue that approach. Again, 1-0, you've got to look for your pitch. Just because it's a strike does not mean you need to swing.
Swinging there, it's 1-1. Beckham, who averages about a walk a week, has already walked twice today, just in the last 3 innings. Pops it high into the air. Marson sheds the mask. Got room and he makes the play. The White Sox have left the bases loaded 4 times today and will play the 10th. Well, the Detroit Tigers, how well have they been going? Brandon Inge, who's had a miserable season, had to go down to Toledo. He wins it. 3-2 Tigers a final. Get every MLB game and the most in HD. Call 1-800-DIRECTV. It is, yes, a game of Inges.
Well, the White Sox have had so many opportunities to win this ball game, to push across another run, but this has basically been a metaphor for their season this year.
Boy, no kidding. Sergio Santos takes over as we do go to the 10th. And you're right, Eric. They've stranded 15 today through 9.
Well, the kicker is that they've had 4 at-bats with the bases loaded and 1 out. 4 at-bats where they came away with nothing. Only one time when Juan Pierre hit a base hit to center did they come through. Did they score a run? But you can't go 4 times with 1 out and the bases loaded and get nothing.
Striking out those 4 times that you're mentioning. Ramirez twice. Matt Laporta leads it off here in the 10th and shoots one out of play. Tyler Flowers will be the catcher now. Remember, Przinsky was lifted for the pinch runner. And speaking of a game of inches, boy, Przinsky just about took it out the other way off Tony Sipp to end the game. It fell at the base of the wall instead. Went as a double. And the odds were still excellent. You figured that the Sox could pull it out anyway, but they couldn't get that pinch runner home.
Yeah, you still felt like the game would be over in a couple more hitters, but again, with the way things have gone for the White Sox this year offensively, and more specifically today, just been a real struggle trying to score runs.
Santos, the closer for Chicago. And so far has blown exactly 1 save every month. He's already hit his quota for September. Did so rather spectacularly about a week ago against the Tigers. Nothing to close here. Everything's even. 3 runs, 8 hits, no errors both ways. And Laporta fouls it. The Indians trying to get to where the White Sox already are. That is with a record of 72 and 71. The Indians exactly at 500 coming in. And 71 wins, Eric, is already 2 more than they had last year. But boy, if you want to make Manny act a man, ask him, is that a good thing? I mean, are you satisfied with that? He says, I hope nobody thinks our goal was to simply win more games than a year ago.
Well, and especially the way they started, the way they battled for most of the year. Manny right there.
Well, knowing that they were going young, Cleveland wanted to hire a manager with a track record of connecting with rookies, especially Latin American rookies. And Acta was hailed as the perfect hire for that. Let go by the Nationals in '09 and faced another rebuilding project with Cleveland, kind of hitching his star to another bumpy wagon. But you're right, it was a surprisingly fun ride at first, getting out 30 and 15. Look out, bat goes flying. Goes right into that dugout on the third base side. Laporta's out on strikes. If that had actually hit Adam Dunn, that's officially the worst season ever.
You see Adam Dunn not even moving. It's an off-speed pitch out in front of it. It's the 5th hitter in a row for the Cleveland Indians that's gone down on strikes.
Wow. Brings up Lou Marson. And a strike from Santos. Well, you know Omar wants to hit.
But I think he's got that bat that Laporta threw into the dugout. Didn't send the bat boy over to get it. Better be careful. Omar might make that some art.
2 strikes to Marson.
Not only does he paint, but maybe a little woodwork.
He's a Renaissance man.
Yes, he is. So what are we looking at? Maybe 6 strikeouts in a row? Do we hear 6? Do we hear 6? We've got 6.
Yes,
boys.
we do. And number 6, Mr. Marson, is out to bring up Fukudome. Hey, tomorrow, week 1 of Fox NFL Sunday kicking off. Falcons are here in Chicago to play the Bears. Two of the NFC's best going head-to-head, or you might see Michael Vick and the Eagles taking on the Rams. Then, on America's Game of the Week, the Giants and Redskins, or Vikings, Chargers, Panthers, Cardinals. Coverage starts with the Fox NFL Sunday pregame show at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Check local listings for the games in your area.
My man Kenny Albert here in town calling that game tomorrow on Fox.
Yeah, with Moose and Goose.
Yeah. I bet you Kenny's probably watching a little baseball right now. What do you think?
Yeah, watching, but also getting his prep work done. That's my call. So a lot of Falcons fans walking around this town. Or at least people wearing Falcons jerseys.
Well, always a great city to come to if your team is playing against the Bears or the Cubs or the White Sox or the Blackhawks.
They honored the Blackhawks before the game today. Stan Mikita was here throwing out a first pitch. A lot of the Blackhawks players. I know you've got your Brent Seabrook jersey and your Ray Emery and your Patrick Kane all in your closet. Big hockey guy you are.
Kings guy. Old-time Kings guy.
The purple and gold Kings?
Well, not that one.
All right. Fukudome blasting away to left field. Pierre at the track has got it. And we'll come back to Chicago after a word from your local Fox station. For you are at the bottom of the 10th. And Chris Perez, he has to come on in, make sure Juan Pierre doesn't get on base and then run around. That is his MO. If you look at the scoreboard, it looks like everything is exactly even. 3 runs, 8 hits, no errors for both these teams today. But whereas the Indians have stranded 4 runners, it's been 15 for Chicago. 2 quick strikes to Pierre.
Yeah, there's what you look at and you think, wow, it is 3-8-0 for each team.
Even Steven.
The scary thing is, it wasn't for a great play by Juan Pierre and A.J. Przinsky, Sox could be on the short end of this thing. Throwing out Matt Laporta at the plate.
And Brzezinski with a great seal off to make sure that the incoming runner wouldn't touch the plate. Juan Pierre, base hit right center.
That's two.
He's thinking about it. He's going for it, and he is going to make it head first. Another two-strike hit for the Sox. They've done that very well today.
For Juan Pierre, the minute he hits this, he's thinking second base. He's going to make something happen, not going to sit around. Fugadomi comes in hard, charges the ball. But watch Juan Pierre. I mean, right out of the chute, he's thinking two. I'm getting two. You're not getting me. The only thing I thought might happen is with all his momentum, he might slide past the bag.
Cornermen are in, thinking bunt from Ramirez. He lets it go by.
Well, and you see Chisenhall staying at third base, Laporta crashing hard. You know, this is where if you can get the guy at third, you give it a shot. If you don't get him, you walk the bases loaded. You see Laporta cheating in. You're Ramirez right now. You're trying to make Chisenhall bunt, or excuse me, make the play at third with a bunt towards the third baseman.
If you walk him, it's not the worst thing ever. You get a force and even a double play possibility out of that. 2-1. In on him, and he bunts it up in the air. He's out. Now, granted, that's a tough-looking pitch to bunt. But that is not what the White Sox were looking for.
Perez has a lot of movement. This thing runs in. He's getting it up there pretty good. Everybody always thinks, oh, just get the bunt down. It's real easy to do. Well, you're not in the batting cage. Somebody's not throwing it 50 miles an hour straight. That guy out there on the mound is trying to prevent you from getting the bunt down. It's a tough pitch to bunt right there. I'm sure you'd like to have him get it down, but Perez is no day at the beach out there on the mound.
And now they're going to offer up 4 wide ones to Konerko and leave it to Tyler Flowers for his first at bat today. Well, it's a percentage move for sure. Konerko's got 98 runs batted in.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. You're one pitch away then from getting out of the inning. You're throwing to an inexperienced hitter.
Well, and a guy who is 1 for 24 in his last 7 games. But that one hit, we should mention, from Tyler Flowers was a home run off Justin Verlander. And after Perez walks Konerko, it will be Flowers with a chance to end this game here in the 10th. Manny Acta will go to the mound. Hasn't been action in that Cleveland bullpen, but they want to make sure that the scouting report is correct here.
Well, there's two things. You want to make sure that you know what you're doing with the hitter, and you also have to be cognizant of Juan Pierre at second base. You don't want to forget about him and let him just take off and steal third. And depending on how this count develops, you know, Juan Pierre, he's got to be thinking about taking third.
If there's an 11th inning, Matt Thornton getting ready.
See the White Sox 0 for their last 8 runners in scoring position. 2 for 14 on the day.
But Flowers, a guy that hit around 260 at AAA. Hitting 210 up here. But again, Marson with a pick to make sure it's not second and third with one out.
Marson's done an unbelievable job back there behind the plate. I mean, none of that's going to show up in the box score tomorrow. Chris Perez very quick to the plate once he comes set, making it difficult for Pierre. It's just a fastball that rides up in the zone. Flowers no chance of catching up to that.
The Perez usually keeps it in the park. Only 4 home runs allowed. He's our closer, 32 saves. Quick to the plate with a strike. 1-2. Rios on deck. The Sox have done some damage today with 2 strikes in the count. Didn't miss by much. Perez throwing out his hands as if to say, where was it?
I think Ed Hickok's missed that call. He got a little thrown off by the move here. Watch Perez. It's a little different now. Look at, oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
So it goes to 2-2 with 2 on. Again, Pierre, a very speedy lead runner. Outside. Which makes this next pitch about the biggest of the game.
And I am not moving right now. 3-2. I'm going to stay put. Especially wouldn't want to be running both guys. Maybe they throw behind to second base and get Konerko.
Do you ponder sending only Pierre and telling Konerko stay?
I don't run. No, I do not run. Because again, Flowers strikes out. So what? You have a runner on third with 2 out. What do you do?
3-2 pitch. Taken. Ball 4. And here we go again. Uncanny how many times the Sox have had this exact possibility for them. They've had it in the first inning, the 6th, the 8th, the 9th, and now the 10th. And you figure one of these times they hit a jackpot.
I'm not looking for a jackpot. I'm looking for contact. If I'm a White Sox fan, I'm just looking for contact. Again, as a hitter right now, get up there. You've got the infield in. Spread your feet. Just punch it somewhere.
Punch to left and gone. A walk-off slam for Rios. And actually, that does qualify as the jackpot. The Indians, a team that's had a couple of walk-off slams this year for them, and now they have one against them.
Well, Rios puts a good swing on it. It's a no-doubter right there. You look at the scoreboard tomorrow, it'll say 8-4. What was that? 7-4.
It's actually 7-3, big fella. That is your final. We'll come right back.